YouTube is a place where videos come in all shapes and sizes. Unlike a lot of platforms like Twitter, TikTok, or Twitch, there are far fewer limitations on the type of video you're allowed to post. Aside from restrictions regarding video content, sky's the limit with the file itself. The website supports most any format, resolution up to 8K, and a nearly unlimited length. This isn't at all surprising, of course, given that YouTube is the world's definitive video hosting platform, but in recent years, these capabilities are being utilized more and more with longer video runtimes. You most likely know what I'm referring to. Video essays and documentaries in particular have been appearing to reach comedically absurd runtimes as of late, and the community response to this has been very mixed.
Awesome, totally worth the 50 minutes at 1.5 speed, which is how I have to watch everything on YouTube these days, because go figure, everything on YouTube is so darn long. They're all like the length of movies.
But to me, a more interesting aspect to all this is observing exactly where this trend came from. On paper, long-form content has been around for quite some time. The world record for the longest YouTube video ever uploaded was set in 2011 at over 571 hours. And given the changes made to the site in the time since, I'd be more than willing to bet it's only a matter of time before this number is surpassed, just for the joke of it. Technicalities aside, longer videos started becoming especially common following the change to the YouTube algorithm in 2016, which began to prioritize watch time over clicks, resulting in a series of events that most are already familiar with, such as the fall of traditional animators, and the rise of reaction channels, reaction commentators, and many others whose formats are able to be produced with longer runtimes at a near daily rate. Around the same time, the demonetization system was seeing its initial implementation, and today, even creators such as these are nearly extinct as well. Commentary as a whole has been on the decline because of its intrinsic tie to controversial subject matters, and as a result, many have made the switch to documentary-based content since this is viewed as being the tamer alternative with a similar focus. Creators like Frederick Knudsen with his Down the Rabbit Hole series were some of the first that kickstarted the trend of unbiased documentaries. However, in the early years, the runtimes were still relatively short. Around 2017, the longest videos you'd commonly see would only be about 40 minutes, even by YouTubers who were known for producing lengthy content like The Right Opinion. There have always been a few relatively popular creators such as Mahler who produced content with runtimes that often exceeded multiple hours, but generally, onlookers found it excessive to do so regularly. Longer content stayed exclusive to other genres such as gaming. But of course, there was one individual who would almost single-handedly break this stigma, for better or for worse.
Alright, welcome to part 2 of The Mind of Jake Paul.
Shane Dawson's documentary series was one of the first to consistently push runtimes, which increased consistently throughout his backlog before peaking in late 2018 around 1 hour each. Combined with the fact that at the same time, creators such as iDubbbz were making their own longer videos, sometimes as a one-off or sometimes regularly. Long runtimes then instead began to be associated with high-effort content, especially since they were far from common at that point in time. This spurred growth in the documentary community as fans began to adopt the format, paired with the influx of commentators seeking to escape the next adpocalypse. The increase may have even drove up competition in creators to further push runtimes. And it's also possible that this was aided by the timing of quarantine resulting from COVID-19, since a larger portion of the populace was kept at home with more free time to indulge in video content, and for longer sitting periods. But personally, I'd argue that the greatest push for it falls back on the algorithm itself. As stated, YouTube cares about watch time when determining how much promotion to give a video, and doesn't take a math whiz to understand that a longer video will typically get more total watch time than a shorter one. If I were to upload both a 5-minute video and an hour-long video, YouTube would push the hour-long video far further because even if it was less engaging and viewers didn't watch it in its entirety, its length almost guarantees it'll have more total watch time than the other. Because to YouTube, watching only 8% of an hour-long video is the same as watching 100% of a 5-minute long video. And the reason is simply because of ads. The longer a video is, the more ads can be placed within it, and this is why for years, YouTubers always tried to reach the coveted 10-minute mark, because videos shorter than that are only allowed to have ads placed at the beginning and end, while anything exceeding that runtime can have a near limitless amount of mid-rolls, placed anywhere a creator specifies. And obviously, runtimes even longer will allow for natural ad breaks without overwhelming the viewer. You could stuff 20 ads into a 10-minute long video if you really wanted to, but that would obviously be frowned upon. But putting 20 ads into a 2-hour documentary translates to an ad every 9 minutes. And since YouTube pushes for watch time for this reason, long-form documentary content is essentially a win-win. With the stigma against them having largely faded in the court of public opinion, and the increase in channels pursuing this approach, it's only natural that this trend is growing today. But there's one small problem. Logically, longer videos of any format take more time to make. Even if you're a streamer, let's player, or reaction reaction commentator, there's always some amount of extra effort required to push the length of whatever you're making, especially since we're thankfully past the days of putting black screens at the end of videos. So in creating documentaries with the intent of making them as long as possible, I worry that creators may start cutting corners with editing and potentially trying to bloat their scripts just to finish these videos in a timely manner. Now for some creators like The Right Opinion, this isn't a risk. Since he uses multiple editors per video, the visuals of his work can retain consistent quality all the way through. Plus, he tends to focus his own time on the script and intentionally chooses bigger subjects, so there isn't an issue. And being an already established channel, he can take longer breaks between uploads without worrying about losing his foothold in the algorithm. As can other creators such as Frederick Knudsen, who while working single-handedly, has a simplistic editing style that fits with the calming nature of his work and lends itself to longer runtimes as well. But most creators aren't in positions like these. Smaller channels usually need to produce their content faster to be able to reach a stable point, and most lack the experience and resources to keep up a stylized approach right out of the gate. The end result are stretched out, lazily made videos that only further draw public ridicule to this style of content. Personally, the only video I've made that had an incredibly long runtime was the Tally Hall documentary, which totaled over 3 hours and 6 minutes. But I spent over 4 months researching it and forming a script, and then 3 more actively editing it, at which point my channel went dormant since it was my only focus. I want to do my best to keep the visuals interesting throughout, and to aid in that further, I hired 2 animators to create title cards and art to be used in the video. Whether you like that video or not, it was a labor of love that I genuinely cared to make, and I did my best to keep it consistently polished throughout the long runtime. But the simple truth is, that kind of video isn't something I could easily replicate. Even if resources and time weren't issues, there aren't many subjects I can think of that would warrant a video of that length. Maybe that's just me, but my underlying fear is that with this trend continuing to grow, it will incentivize others to forcibly stretch out their scripts and reduce the effort of their editing just to reach a random number. When on other sites with ironclad caps on video lengths like TikTok, creators are taking the opposite approach and attempting to cram as much effort as possible into a small runtime in an attempt to wow the viewer. The wow factor on YouTube shouldn't be the arbitrary length the video can reach. Sometimes, bigger isn't better. Better is better.
Server